That ring walk, I say it time and time again, the adrenaline that you get doing that ring walk, people chanting your name, no drink or drug give you that eye. I just don't believe it can. Obviously, retiring from the sport, that's something I'm going to struggle with probably the most. There's so many things, the everyday sort of environment of being in the gym, that's something that will take some getting used to, and I'm not ashamed to say I'll struggle for a bit. I think knowing that you're not going to be competing no more, it'll be hard to take for a bit. Just an energetic kid. I remember you had to be 11 before you could fight, and then I think about a month before my 11th birthday, it was like I remembered and I thought, I want to start boxing again, and I knew within a session or two that was what I wanted to do as a job. I know it sounds like a 10-year-old lad, but I knew I wanted to compete. But I was hooked. I had the boxing bug from there on. I always had to keep my head about me so mum and dad didn't shout at me and say, but I'm gonna go to college and to university, so I've got something to fall back on. But it never happened. I'd be watching it on television and I'd be reading, boxing magazines, and it'd tell about fighters that was on television then and winning titles, what they'd done as an amateur. And then when I started doing well as a schoolboy boxer, I'd say, oh, that's what they'd done. And I started thinking, well, if they done that, I can do that. And it was basically just that. I've been going to that arena for years, sat in the upper tiers, watching some of the greatest British boxing before Ricky Hatton. So to make my debut there, it was very special. It was funny because I got the live float slot, which, as you know, it can either be a great thing where you're going just before the main event in front of a packed house, or if fights go the distance, you can end up going on after in front of a few hundred people or whoever you've sold tickets to, and that's exactly what happened. I think everyone who'd bought tickets ended up near ringside because I was on after the main event. I was actually really lucky to get on. I remember winning the Lonsdale belt that night, and it's one of my proudest nights in British boxing, and what it meant to my dad, my family, and just showing it's a beautiful, beautiful belt. And that taught me something that Joe's always said to me about it's important to stay ready. And I was in the gym, I was fit, and the call come through and I jumped at it. That weekend was one of my greatest weekends in boxing. I say it a lot, that was possibly the most important night in my career. I had a little boy on the way. I wasn't there to win, and to be a lad who I've watched, looked up to, really enjoyed watching, being a world champion, it meant an awful lot. And it probably, what that done, that allowed me to then get the contract with Matchroom Boxing. That allowed a deposit for my family to put on a house. That is probably the most important win in my career, because if I didn't win that night, I can't say I would have walked away from boxing. However, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford to be a full-time professional with having a little family. That was one of my most satisfying nights, and one of the most important nights in my career, without a doubt.
Manchester boxer Anthony Crolla was floored in a vicious attack.
The 28-year-old is in hospital with a fractured skull.
Crolla had been due to fight for a world title next month. That's now off, a decision which is said to have left him heartbroken.
And I think, the story is well documented about taking chase to two burglars and catching them, and then on the blind side getting hit with a concrete slab, ending up with injuries, a fractured skull and ankle broken a few places. So obviously career-threatening injuries, and there was a time for a good few months where I didn't know if I was going to be allowed to fight again. And like I mentioned earlier, when you've got a young family and you've got bills to pay, there was a massive worry when boxing's all I've done, and not going to university and getting that education might have come back to haunt me. Everything happens for a reason. I think that was a big turning point in my career, because not everyone gets a second chance at things in life, and I did.
Oh, he's landed something, and Perez immediately calls him on, but that was a shocker in the last few seconds.
There wasn't one person in that arena or online around there who thought you didn't do enough to win that.
Roberto Torres scores it. 113, a three-way split.
Unbelievable.
The fight is a draw. The champion keeps his title.
As good as it was, I had to be thankful I was back boxing, and I walked out in front of a packed Manchester Arena, the support, it was something that I'd always dreamed of. So I had a lot to be thankful for, but then I went from being the boxer who got it over the head with concrete slab and burglars to being robbed of a world title, and I just thought, I knew that I had to take that moment. Again, when we're on about second chances, I got a second chance, rightfully so, but I knew I had to take that chance.
His name rings around this famous venue. Will it be a famous night?
I still get goosebumps when I watch it back now. The dream, you see my reaction, you see everyone's reaction in there. It's something that'll never ever leave me, one of my proudest moments in my life.
A wonderful body shot, Anthony Crolla. I'm not sure he's going to make it. It is over. Anthony $1 million Crolla has the dream night, the fairy tale ending.
That night, I genuinely believed it was meant to be. It was fate, and I've never been as calm walking out to that fight as what I ever have been in my life, and I believed that night I was meant to become world champion and nothing was going to stop me. I mean, Lenara is absolute class. A fighter who I admired years before. So it's funny the way boxing works, where someone you admire, someone you watch him skills, and then years later you're sharing a ring with him. He's a very, very good fighter. Freeweight world champion, will be a future Hall of Famer.
Should prove a classic mix of skills, of tactics, of power, defense. And now, big right from Taylor-Rutterford, and another one. Crolla's hurt. 17 seconds left in the sixth. He's got to hold, guys.
The first fight, I really believed, just before he buzzed me in, I think, 6, I was on the verge of breaking him. I really was good foothold in the fight, and then he caught with a great shot. It just zapped me of so much energy, and it gave him that win. So I believe I've hurt him once, but it was a tough, hard fight, which merited, the rematch. Second time around, I really believed that I would put it right. Really did. Had a fantastic camp, and for the first time in my career, I was beat convincingly. Sometimes you got to roll your hands up and say I was beat by the better man, and I was. He was fantastic that night, and it was one of his career best performances. You live and learn, and I believe that I've become sort of a better fighter from that. But I knew there was a lot of top fighters I'd still beat, and that was it. I did. After that, I had some great wins. You look at obviously Ricky Burns, Dow Jordan, class fighter, a good wins for me, and then obviously earning my shot at Vasily Lomachenko. Stylistically, Lomachenko is a nightmare for most people, but certainly me. There's no denying he's an all-time great. He's one of the best to do it, and there's, no matter what you look at, as an amateur what he achieved in such a short time, as a professional what he's achieved. When he went through the gears, it was like, I'm in trouble here, and that was the first time I felt like that, and it was a horrible, horrible feeling, but, just being honest, I went over there believing I could win. Some people say, oh, you might be deluded, but that's what you do when you're training hard. You believe in yourself, you believe you can cause that upset. I was brought back to reality, very quickly. But regrets? No, certainly not. I've achieved what I wanted to in the sport. I've come into the sport to try and win a world title, which I've done, to get a house out of boxing, which I've done. It's a very dangerous sport to hang around and try and pick up paydays. I could still hang around now, and there's still some decent paydays out there for me, but is it the right thing to do for that reason? Sometimes you've got to be realistic, and it's just being brutally honest. It's not having a defeatist attitude. When I say, while Lomachenko's got the belts, there's nothing that's happening. I've seen it recently, just how brutal this sport can be, and I don't want to hang around too long. Time and time again, I've seen people close to me. Boxing's took more from them than they've took from boxing by a long way, and I don't want to be that guy. Boxing loves no one. Boxing loves absolutely no one, so if you hang around too long, it'll take more from you than you take from boxing.